How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be going over the weekly watch list. This is the first time I've done this on the channel. I'm going to be talking about 3 stocks that you want to keep a very close eye on, especially if we continue to have momentum inside of the markets. Not only are we going to be taking a look at the charts, we're also going to be taking a look at the option contracts, looking at calls and as well as puts. We know the market is extremely volatile, and you want to make sure that you have a game plan depending on the direction that it decides to go. I won't waste any more time. Let's get into those videos right now. So we're going to take a look at the chart for NVIDIA. Let's see how it performed on Friday. So it ended up closing at $158.38, being down 0.13%. So it didn't do too bad whatsoever. As far as for the low of the day, it was at 153.89, and for the high of the day, it was at 160.37. So right away, when we take a look at our chart, let's see what it did at the beginning of last week. So it ended up testing a low at 140.55. And by the end of the week ended up closing at 158.38. That is a very big move. So that means going into Monday and as well as for this coming week, what do we want to look for? So I'd want to see it go back to retesting at least 160 like it did on the Friday. If we could break through this 160 level, that's where I can see NVIDIA making a move to around 164, 166. And if we have a lot of buying coming in, don't be surprised if you see it trying to make a move to 170. It is a very significant level due to the fact we did have a strong sell-off back here on the end of June. And when it came down to this level, that's when we had the downtrend continuing. So just seeing that if we have a lot of buyers stepping in, 170 for this coming week is definitely achievable for the stock. But one thing that we have to pay attention to, we want to see support holding up at least above the 50 EMA. We want to see a higher low. We tested the low at 153.89. If we can have a low right here around 156.90, that would be the best case scenario. But one thing we can't ignore, there's a lot of demand here for NVIDIA between 153 and as well as 154.5. So we could possibly pull back to this level to see if buyers want to step in, and this could push the stock up further. But if we do break through this area, we do have a gap that needs to be filled right here around 151.41. I will talk about some option contracts that you could take a look at, but just knowing these levels and paying attention to the market conditions, there's some opportunities here. Now let's take a look at the option table for NVIDIA, but we're going to be focusing on the calls and the contracts that really grab my attention. So the first one would have to be the $170 strike. The last contract sold on Friday for 82 cents, which would be $82. And as far as for the open interest, it is at 13,163, and then we have the delta that's at 15 cents, so that would be $15. So again, I really do like this one. And if you want something that is closer to the money, then we have the $160 strike. The last price that it sold for was at $3.70. The open interest is just over 9,000, and then we have the delta that's at 45 cents or $45 when it moves. Again, keep an eye on these contracts if you're looking to play NVIDIA to the upside. The contracts that I like for the puts would have to be the $155 strike. The last price that it sold for was $3. The open interest is at 14,436, and then we have the delta that's at 37 cents. And then taking a look at the $150 strike, you can see the last contract sold was at $1.61. The open interest was at 7,300, and the delta was at 22 cents. That's one thing that I love about these NVIDIA contracts. They move very well, and if you are a day trader or if you're looking to swing it throughout the day, then I would definitely be keeping an eye on these particular contracts that I just mentioned. But keep in mind, NVIDIA has been on quite the run since last week. Samsung ended up releasing their earnings, so a lot of chip and semiconductor plays have been able to actually benefit from this. But if we have a continuation, that's why I said if you're watching the chart, you'll know exactly where the strength lies and where the stock could possibly go. Let's move on. So we're going to be taking a look at the chart for the trade desk. Let's see how it actually performed on Friday. So it ended up closing at $45.63, being up 0.22%. On the low, it tested $43.65, and then on the high, testing $46.81. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 3.545 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 4.601 million shares. So we have below average volume, but again, I can see that picking up for the coming week. So right away, when we take a look at our chart here, let's see how well it did since the week started from last week. So we could see that it tested a low all the way at around $40 and ended up closing the week at $45.63. So we see momentum continuing to come inside of the tech sector. What I want to see not only is us surpassing the high of the day on Friday at $46.81, but I'd like to see a move going to $50. I think this is very achievable for this stock, especially like I said, if we continue to have buying pressure coming in. But one of the areas that I want you guys to pay attention to, we want to see support holding up between $43 and as well as $44. These are the areas that you want to pay attention to. These are where buyers were stepping in. We noticed this back here on Thursday, and we also did notice this back here on Friday. Again, between $43 and $44. If it doesn't come down to that level on Monday, and if it decides to have support right at the 50 EMA, which is right at $45, then there's no doubt in my mind we should be able to make a move going to 47 and potentially even possibly going to 48. So that's something to keep on watch. And in the bearish case, if the stock decides to pull back, I could see some weakness if we decide to fall below $42, because we will go back and revisit right here at those lows at $40.37, and then you want to see what it would do from there. Now let's take a look at the options.
Now we're going to be taking a look at the option table for the trade desk, ticker symbol TTD. So we could see for the $50 strike, the last contract sold on Friday for 42 cents or $42. We could see that the delta is at $17 and the open interest is at $2,785. When taking a look at the other contracts that we have between 50 and as well as 45, this one stands out the most and definitely does provide some day trading opportunities. When we take a look at the puts, I would be keeping an eye on the $45 strike. The last price it is sold for on Friday was at $1.50. Again, this would be $150. And then taking a look at the open interest, it is at $3,619. And then for the delta, it is at $42. Again, day traders out there, this is one that you want to keep a very close eye on. So now that you know what it looks like in regards to calls and as well as puts, add that to your homework, see which one you like, and of course you want to be playing the market direction. Let's move on to the next one.
So we're going to take a look at the chart for Amazon. Let's see how it performed on Friday real quick. So it ended up closing at $115.54, being down 0.68%. On the low, it tested $113.69, and then on the high, testing $116.58. And for the volume stats, you can see it traded at 45.72 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 69.148 million shares. So we have below average volume on the day. So the first thing, when we take a look at our 30-minute chart here, where was Amazon at the beginning of last week? So we could see here on July the 5th, it was at 106.34, and then ending the week at 115.54. So that is quite the move right there. But if the momentum continues and if it defines support right around this 50 EMA, it can get very interesting. It did see a high on the Thursday right around 117. So if we could break through this 117 level, whether it happens on Monday or Tuesday, that would be a good look for the stock, and I'd want to see a move to at least right here around 118. And if we're able to find support at 117 upon breaking 118, that's where I want to see Amazon making that move to 120. That is very possible because we did have some resistance at this 118 level at the end of June, and breaking above it, you could see that we had quite a bit of a pullback there right on June, so that's why I feel a breakout above this level can send us back to 120. But the other point I want you guys to pay attention to is that we could see support. We have it here right around 113.70. It tested 113.69 on the Friday. When we take a look at what happened on the Thursday, this also did serve as an area of support for Amazon. And then we could see all the way back here on July the 5th, it was actually an area of resistance. So resistance and then becoming support. So if it continues to be a support level, that's something to take notice of and maybe wanting to play the upside, especially if we want to do a reversal. Now, if we have weakness inside of the markets, what does Amazon look like to the downside? I would be getting very curious to see if that 113.70 level that I just discussed ends up becoming resistance, because that's where we know it could test back to $112 and come all the way back down to $110, and then seeing what it would do. If we ended up having some bad news come out, let's say CPI for example, it will go back to revisiting to the levels that it was at the beginning of the week at 106 and can even go down even lower. So I'll be talking about some options that you could take a look at, but that's what I'm seeing so far from this Amazon chart.
Now let's take a look at the option table for Amazon, and of course we're going to be starting off with the calls and the contracts that grab my attention. So we could see for the $120 strike, the last price it is sold for on the Friday was at 77 cents, and the open interest is at 82,579, and for the delta it is at 23 cents. So again, this is a contract a lot of traders are going to be watching. And then for the next contract, it would be the $118 strike. The last price that it sold for was at $1.32 on the Friday. The open interest is at 9,964, and we have the delta that's at 35 cents. Again, another great contract that you want to keep an eye on. And now for the puts, the ones that grab my attention is the $114 strike. The last price that it sold for on Friday was at $1.80. The open interest is at 13,338, and you can see the delta is at 39 cents as well. Really attractive. And then when we take a look at the $110 strike, you can see the last price it sold for on Friday was at 76 cents. The open interest is at 51,457, and for the delta it is at 19 cents as well. Again, keep an eye on these contracts if you're looking to play puts on Amazon. Of course, you guys have to pay attention to the overall market direction, and this is why I say it is very essential you're paying attention to what's happening in the pre-market or any news that comes out, especially since we have CPI that's going to be coming out for the coming week. I'll talk about it further. Let's actually get into that right now. So before I close this video out, when it comes to these plays, there's many things we need to take into consideration. Most important is the market conditions. We do have CPI that's going to be coming out on July the 13th. If those numbers end up being really bad, then I could see the market falling off a cliff, and of course that's how those puts could do very, very well. But if we end up seeing some momentum inside of these markets, that's where the calls could do very, very well and hit those levels what I was talking about on the chart for each of these stocks. And the reason why it's important and the reason why there's actually a possibility behind it, yes, they did run up quite a bit from the prior week, but as far as catalysts are concerned, we have a good amount when it comes to the tech sector. The first one being is we saw that Samsung released their earnings last week and they did very well, and this helped many stocks that are in the chip and the semiconductor space. And that's part of the reasons why I was saying that you have to keep NVIDIA on your watch list, because it does move very well, and watching those contracts you can find opportunities if the run does continue. And we also have to take into consideration these stocks trade inside of the tech sector, so rising tides float all boats, so you don't want to forget about that. Another thing is we have Google that's going to be doing their stock split on July the 15th, so we could have some momentum for this coming week, and that's why I was saying watching these plays. And then the next point that we have to consider, we have earnings season. So a lot of the banks are going to be coming out with their earnings for this week, so depending on how those results turn out, it will have an impact on the market as a whole. And that's why I want to make sure you guys are prepared, and why I give those levels to the upside and as well as for the downside. There's going to be a lot of volatility, but the great part about it is whether you decide to swing trade or whether you want to day trade these particular contracts, there's so many ways that you can go about doing it, but you need to find out what is right for you and also make sure that you're using the right risk management. I'm not allowed to give you guys financial advice, but if you want to get some more guidance, I highly suggest you join us inside of the Discord. We go over option plays every single day. We also go through the market conditions, and we also take a look at the direction of where the SPY could possibly go. And this makes me want to get into the next point. When you're taking a look at the SPY, I want to make sure that you have your option contracts on your watch list. The reason why this is important, if the SPY is trading in a range where it provides an opportunity for you to buy some calls, your stocks will run up alongside with it if that's the direction the market chooses to go. If the market is already trading at the top, that is not an optimal entry when it comes to buying calls. You're already too late. You're probably better off buying puts, but of course there has to be continued resistance. A good example of this is seeing how the SPY was trading last week. We had some strong resistance around 389 and as well as 390. And as far as for this coming week, many traders are looking for SPY to get to at least 393 and possibly 400. In my personal opinion, I'm looking for 393. I'm going to be conservative here, but if we end up having those CPI numbers come out and the market decides to fall off a cliff, then I could see SPY wanting to knock out the lows that we had before and going below $365. Again, we go over this every single day. The market is going to change day in and day out, and you need to make sure you're prepared for it. And when it comes to options, again, you want to make sure that you're using the right risk management. Don't mess around. You can make money quickly, but you can lose it just as fast. And if you guys actually want to download my free ebook, 5 Strategies to Trade Options Like a Pro, I will put the link inside of the first comments and you can get access to that. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and let's see how these stocks perform for the coming week. We'll talk soon.